Angelina Jolie could not remain composed when her daughter moved out, and it happened precisely as Brad Pitt intensified efforts to rebuild his fractured relationship with their children. This is no longer just a divorce. It's a test of what family truly means in a world shaped by fame, silence, and unresolved grief. If one needed a defining example of quiet collapse in modern Hollywood, no divorce has carried more emotional weight or social resonance than the separation of Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt. But what keeps the public riveted isn't the court hearings or legal arguments. It's the seemingly small, private developments that unfold with quiet intensity. Like 19-year-old Shiloh Jolie Pitt moving out to live with her rumored girlfriend, just as her estranged father begins quietly mobilizing to reconnect with his children. No direct confrontation. No public statements. Yet every move, no matter how subtle, seems to carry symbolic gravity. And it's this silence that underscores a painful truth. The Jolie Pitt family hasn't imploded in a spectacular blaze. It has unraveled through distance, through absence, through bonds once cherished becoming increasingly fragile. One notable fact stands out. All of Jolie and Pitt's children over 18 have legally dropped Pitt from their surnames. No press conferences, no accusations. But that action, stark, deliberate, speaks louder than any interview. Against that backdrop, reports that Brad Pitt is exploring every possible path to repair his relationship with the children, including enlisting former father-in-law Jon Voight, reveal the quiet desperation of a father once revered worldwide, now increasingly isolated. Angelina Jolie, according to close sources, was visibly unsettled by Shiloh's decision to move out. She didn't forbid it, nor did she object publicly. But like any experienced mother, Jolie likely recognized that moving out isn't just about changing addresses. It often signals a deeper psychological shift. And when that shift coincides with the father's sudden attempts at reconciliation, it's no longer just a personal milestone. It becomes a pivotal moment in a family dynamic still struggling for stability. Legally, Pitt still retains visitation rights. But as one insider put it bluntly, what good are visitation rights if none of the kids want to see him? This isn't speculation. It's the culmination of years of quiet tension, during which the children grew up caught in the delicate space between loyalty and emotional injury. Maddox, Pax, Zahara, names once synonymous with the picture of a global, loving family, are now referenced with unmistakable detachment, some even reportedly holding deep resentment toward their father. And this may explain why Pitt's latest efforts seem increasingly symbolic rather than strategic. He's not turning to lawyers. He's turning to Jon Voight, a man Jolie publicly distanced herself from years ago over political and personal rifts. At 85, Voight, according to sources, is willing to help however he can. But one must ask, is this truly a path toward healing, or a final attempt to salvage something already lost? The deeper question is whether the children themselves want any form of reconciliation. In a society like the US, where personal agency is paramount, and especially in Hollywood, where emotional boundaries are tested constantly, no legal framework can force an adult child to call someone dad. And no family tradition is strong enough to compel forgiveness when past wounds remain unaddressed. Jolie, meanwhile, remains the gravitational center in her children's lives. She doesn't control them, but she quietly ensures their safety. Mama Bear, as one source described her, is not a metaphor. It reflects a reality in which Jolie long ceased being just a Hollywood star. She became a protector, a stabilizer, a figure of quiet authority in a family whose public image once outshone their private struggles. As for Pitt, his current path seems to be one of emotional recalibration. But if that journey begins with enlisting voices his children have chosen to silence, such as Voight, it raises questions about whether he truly understands the nature of the fracture. Perhaps what Pitt needs isn't a new plan, but a new posture. One of acknowledgement, of humility, and of readiness to listen before acting. Healing, if it is to happen, cannot be brokered from the outside. It must begin from within, through dialogue, empathy, and a willingness to face past failures with honesty, not strategy. This saga, then, transcends its celebrity origins. It mirrors the reality of countless fractured families, where children mature silently through years of tension, where parents drift from anger to regret, and where no side truly wins. Only time and truth can offer a resolution with any measure of peace. And perhaps the most haunting element of this entire narrative isn't what Jolie or Pitt does next, but how quietly the children have chosen to grow up. They are no longer passive participants. They are writing their own stories. Away from the cameras, away from the noise. Shiloh is just one example. She walked out without making a scene. And yet, her quiet departure echoed across global media, not because of controversy, but because it told the world what words never could. In some cases, silence is the loudest statement of all. Brad Pitt smiled calmly when asked about the most contentious divorce in Hollywood, and that very composure is raising a far more complex question. In a battle that has stretched over nearly a decade, is silence his last form of resistance, or simply the posture of a man with nothing left to lose? No anxious glances, no complaints. Brad Pitt sat down with GQ and responded to questions about his legal battle with Angelina Jolie in an even, measured tone. "I don't think it's a big deal," he said. "They've been reporting on this for over a decade now." A short reply, but one that carries a profound weariness, mixed with a kind of quiet resilience that only someone well acquainted with the relentless glare of Hollywood could truly understand. But this story was never simple. When Angelina Jolie filed for divorce in June 2016, few anticipated that the legal process would stretch for nearly 8 years, cost each side millions of dollars, and dismantle the image of what was once Hollywood's most admired couple. In December 2024, the case was finally closed on paper, but the emotional fractures, the shift in public trust, and the deeper questions about how we understand celebrity and accountability remain entirely unresolved. Brad Pitt's demeanor is neither triumphant nor defeated, because in this kind of battle there are no winners. Assets were divided, children took sides, reputations were stripped bare across hundreds of headlines. Instead of confrontation, Pitt chose a kind of quiet drift, immersing himself in film projects, producing Formula One, and retreating into what he now describes as a peaceful and safe life with his current partner, Inez de Ramon. His calm isn't detachment, it's a kind of defense mechanism. While global media continue to scrutinize his every move, who he appears with on red carpets, who he dines with, who he avoids, Pitt has taken another route: silence, discretion, and speaking only when necessary. Yet that silence has sparked more questions than it answers. It's hard to reconcile how someone once accused of domestic abuse, whose children have reportedly dropped his surname, could say that it's not a big deal. Is this Pitt's way of reframing his life as something so consumed by public speculation that he no longer sees the point in clarifying truth from narrative? Or is it simply acceptance that in a world where power lies not in truth, but in who gets to tell the story, the only thing left to do is say nothing? The public remains split. Some interpret Pitt's posture as mature: no smearing, no retaliatory interviews, no attempt to weaponize trauma for attention. Others see it as evasion, a refusal to confront the past, especially when allegations of abuse were aired publicly, though never resolved through any definitive judgment. Jolie, for her part, has never truly disengaged. For 8 years, she has fought to retain custody of her children, challenging Pitt not only on emotional grounds, but also legally and financially. Business Insider estimated that each party spent over $1 million on lawyers, consultants, PR advisors, and complex disputes, including the ongoing legal battle over Chateau Miraval, the French winery once viewed as a symbol of their shared empire. So why, even with the case technically closed, does this feel far from over? Perhaps because in Hollywood, closure is almost always performative. A celebrity's private life is never truly private. They live in a space suspended between character and personhood, between public fantasy and private exhaustion. And in that context, statements like Pitt's gentle and almost casual become gateways to far more haunting questions about what truly remains after the cameras stop rolling. Enter Inez de Ramon. Their quiet relationship has become something of a mirror. Subtle, discreet, free of scandal, but heavily examined, precisely because she's the first woman Pitt has publicly dated since the divorce. They met through mutual friends, bonded over art and travel, and despite his filming schedule, Pitt is said to spend regular, quality time with her, at home in Los Angeles, on dinner dates, or out shopping. He's always smiling around her, a source told People. But what stands out is not the smile, it's the transition. By presenting this relationship calmly and without spectacle, Brad Pitt is sending a quiet message. His life has moved on. However many times the past resurfaces in headlines, he's not looking back. His present no longer includes Jolie. That's why this isn't just a divorce story. It's a test of how long the public's patience can last. A case study in how fame can protect, but also expose. A reminder that in Hollywood, the end is rarely ever final, because behind the legal closure lies a series of emotional, familial, and social consequences still playing out beneath the surface. Brad Pitt may call it not a big deal, but for everyone who once looked to the Jolie-Pitt union as a symbol of something beautiful, something enduring, perhaps the biggest deal of all is how it ended. In silence, in mutual retreat, and with more unanswered questions than closure.